Sean, what time is it?
That's an excellent question. What time is it?
It's off-duty time!
Oh, God. We got to work on that.
You don't like that, do you?
That needs some work. It's
do you like it?
Cheesy.
Do you not like it?
It's so cheesy.
Okay, well.
Hello, and welcome to the 10-7 podcast. ASMR experience.
Why do we continue to go back to ASMR?
ASMR just boggles my mind.
It does. Does that really... Has that ever relaxed
Is anybody
someone?
having a skin-gasm right now? That's what they call it. It's like where your skin goes, woo! Like, that's what it's for. It's really fucking weird. Just do that for like 30 minutes flat. Let everybody like listen to it and fall asleep. What if we just took 2 Valiums each and was just like, hello, and welcome to the podcast. This is your host, Bill Fuckface.
I can't see my lips anymore. I can't see my lips anymore.
We just both go to the dentist and come back and record immediately. You know, that's actually an experience that I've never had. I've never
been lidocained?
I've had like, what's that shit you put in your mouth when you have a toothache? It numbs your... I've put too much of that in before, but I've never had it like shot in there and then like had like the... Or like, I've never woke up from like anesthesia all wacky. I've never been under anesthesia in my life.
Oh, I have?
I've been knocked unconscious.
Guess what? I woke up just as like confused as to where I was, but I never had that little like... I don't think I'm Stacy.
Yeah. Oh my God. And you get all dramatic and weird, like the YouTube videos.
Yeah, I have never had that, and I was under for.
It's kind of sad because that would be a good story.
I was under for a couple of hours having my hand worked on, and yeah,
right.
Like woke up and apparently the other people that were there were just like, "No, you woke up and were like, oh, where am I at?"
I'm hungry.
Who
I bet you were hungry,
you?
weren't you?
Yeah, and we went to Firehouse Subs and got subs afterwards.
I'm so hungry, feed me.
Mm-hmm.
It's been 4 hours since I've eaten. And they're like, sir, you've only been in here for 4 hours. Exactly.
Yeah. I'm a fat kid. Fuck
I had
you.
an ice cream sandwich on the way in, okay? Don't judge me.
Kiss my fat ass. So, well, I guess we just opened it. I don't know. We opened this Pandora's box of weirdness.
Yes.
And you know what? I'm pretty proud of us. We've gotten a lot of hits and from a lot of different freaking countries.
Yeah, those might be VPNs, right?
Could be, but I mean,
the Sweden one has got to be.
No, I don't know. I mean, we've gotten Sweden and Canada, so
that's weird. The UK I can understand.
Yeah, we've had some for the UK too.
Yeah,
that's kind of cool
because
I like it.
They nearly speak the same language as us. There's only a few little words,
little different accent.
They probably appreciate our cursing. Did you know that British people curse a whole lot? They just sound real polite when they do it, so you don't notice. This is the country where they, like, we are like, oh, he said the C word, and they're like, you're being a daft cunt. Like,
or the chefs over there. That's actually a normal thing for chefs, is they just cuss at everything all the time.
Why is that? Why is that a thing?
I don't know.
I always thought of, like, before seeing all those shows, I never thought it would be that stressful. But
they're in a kitchen, so nobody else can hear them. So if somebody's screwing up, then just...
I bet they use a lot of money, like, soundproofing that. Just to make sure, because
maybe
last thing you want to do is you're sitting down and it's like... Fuck you! You're an idiot sandwich! Like,
maybe that's why they play music loud.
That's gotta be it. It's gotta be it. The louder the music, the ruder the chef probably is. God, I couldn't do it. I'd be like first day, and I'd be like yelling at Gordon Ramsay. I'd throw knives at him, probably. Like, fuck you, Gordon Ramsay.
Gordon Ramsay's a beast, though, man. He's done so much shit for restaurants and whatnot. But I actually watched this thing. Most of the ones that he's like quote unquote rescued, all
those shows are bogus though.
They went back to what they used to do, and then they closed down like 2 weeks later. Yeah. So it's like, all right, you had the golden ticket. Yeah. Like all you had to do was continue with what you had. Just do that.
Mm-hmm. Although I bet his ingredients and stuff were expensive, and they probably couldn't afford it or something. Because they don't do that. They're like, here you go, use this stuff. And they're like, how do we avoid this? Did you know Pimp My Ride is a total sham? Like that old
totally,
show?
Yeah.
Those cars would usually, like, they would do no work to make sure, like, the battery would still work. Because I remember when you were hooking up your system and you were having a pain in the ass time, like, trying to get, like, to not draw too much power, basically. And like, everything they do draws so much power. You should have, like, 3 extra car batteries back there.
and that was the thing, too, is apparently most of the states that they did that in, they did car inspections. And half the stuff they had in there would not pass inspection because it was loose. Quote unquote.
Things that could fly up and hit you in the back of the head if you get that front end collision.
So after the show aired, like they had this badass painted ride or whatever,
right? And
then they would take all the interior stuff out again, just to make it so they could actually drive it again. They did nothing for like the motor, like they never did anything to the motor.
No,
so
they never even hardly lifted the hood,
right?
Not really, just to get to the battery.
My favorite one was I can't remember what it was, but it was people would call in or send emails, and their spouse or son or whoever would have like this really cool like hot rod that they've been trying to get made built over the last X amount of years. So they would steal the car, quote unquote. Like they would send a wrecker in, they would steal the car, and then it would come back exactly how they wanted it with the right paint, the right motor, like all this stuff. That's my favorite one.
That's not Exhibit though.
No.
Right. No. Okay, I was like, I can't see that happening.
It's like the Hot Rod channel.
Yeah,
or something like that.
That's probably pretty cool.
So like we talked about last week, I did get a job again. So
Yay!
I feel good about that. This job is going to allow me to do a little bit more with the podcast as far as editing while I'm at work too. So that's cool.
Really?
Yeah.
Nice.
Downtime and a laptop means a lot,
dude. For real.
But I was going to talk today about a lot of the leading cause of death to both patients and medics.
Due to, like, you mean like patients because of the medics, like, right?
No, this is a fatigue episode.
Oh, right on.
So, the old service that I used to work for, which I don't care about talking about as much now,
right?
Since I'm
it's in the past.
It doesn't matter, right? Yeah, they actually made a point to say that they were there strictly for the hospitals, to facilitate the hospitals and get patients out of the hospitals. Okay, so that's a bad...
Which sounds all right on paper, but probably isn't great.
That's a horrible thing anyway. Shouldn't we be for the patient?
Yeah. Yeah,
I mean,
you'd think.
Really.
I'm sure they spin it that way, but yes.
But like
they make it sound nice, I'm sure.
The new ops manager that got rid of 30 people over 2 months. Yeah, he actually told us that we are in the business of facilitating the hospital. No, we're here for the patient.
That's such a money way of looking at it. That sucks.
So what what ended up happening was me and my partner did a transfer at 2:00 in the morning. Went to St. Louis, and we got back. The other car was up when we got back, and it was like, I don't know, like 5, 6 o'clock in the morning when we got back or something like that. So it was like
sun
super
was
late.
Coming up, birds were starting to chirp.
Yeah. So we laid down to go to sleep, and there was a issue with the way that the new ops manager had made the way that transfers and 911 calls came out, and the dispatcher didn't know who to send.
Right.
So that's ultimately what got us fired. Yeah. Because it wasn't our fault. It was the dispatcher fault. Anyway. Right. So
what are we talking about? Like things to help with fatigue and things like that?
Well, the NHTSB had a study that said that if you have fatigued medics, then you either need to take them down to 12-hour shifts, or
to alleviate their fatigue, basically.
Right. Yeah. Require them to have X amount of downtime.
12-hour shifts from what?
From 24-hour shifts. Instead of doing 24s, you do
12s. Oh, which is the norm, right? 24s are normal.
24s are normal.
Right.
You...
Just for like an amount of time until they feel like they're feeling better or whatever. Okay.
Get an X amount of downtime, if they do long distance or whatnot.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Because I can tell you time that I did
Do you think this will eventually become like a regulation to where they'll have to do it?
It's hard to tell. I mean, but the thing is they didn't give like percentages or anything like that. But you can go on Google and look up fatigue related EMS deaths.
Right.
And you will come up with a news report after news report after news report of just, this person fell asleep behind the wheel. They hit a guardrail, and so you lost a medic, and a basic,
maybe even the patient.
And the patient,
yeah. If they're on the return trip,
and that's what's
and that's
sad.
Not even to mention like your decision making skills or abilities are much lower when you're all fucking exhausted.
Yeah, you're looking at
fatigue in the broader sense is a thing too that you have to deal with.
You're looking at okay, so you've been running 911 calls all day, and then all of a sudden the hospital wants you to take a transfer to 150 to 300 miles away from where you're at.
Yeah.
So when the company you work for tells you do it or we're getting rid of you,
right?
Then so you take it.
They don't even ask truckers to do that,
right?
So that's a lot of drive time, man.
Right, and that's one of the things that really sucks about, I will say, quote unquote, corporate EMS.
Yeah, and I'm sure they're not all bad.
Not all of them, no.
But just like every other workplace, corporate does tend to be shittier sometimes when it comes to stuff like that.
I'm hoping that the new company that I'm going to is better about that than the old one. And whenever, like I said last episode, when I talked to the owner of the company, he seemed like he knew what was going on. A reasonable
man.
Yeah, he knew what was up. Like,
well, the fact that he's still running like a small business means that he's not running it like a fucking.
And he also runs the streets.
Boss man, corporate guy. Well, he's not like.
He's also like he's in the mix, so he's not like completely separated from everything else.
So that's nice, man. Like. Nice to have a boss that actually understands what you're doing.
Yeah.
I don't like to work for somebody that won't do what they're asking me to do.
Right. And that's why I bring this up is one of the companies that I was quote unquote going to have or was going to have an interview with.
Quote unquote. Right. You just did a no reason quote unquote, didn't you?
One of the companies I was going to have an interview with, they the daughter of the owner of the company was who I talked to on the phone prior to the interview.
It's a family business, basically.
And
literally.
Right. And they own, kind of like the company I'm going to work for, but not really. They own a funeral home, and they run the ambulance out of the funeral home.
Which is dying, I guess? It's not like a thing that happens much anymore?
No. But the difference is, she told me on the phone, because I told her, I was like, hey, I've been, medic this long. I've been in EMS working on ambulances for this long.
And then you add in your fire experience as well.
And she goes, oh, we would love to have you here. And then I ask the golden question. What's your ratio from transfers to 911 calls?
Right.
Now, let me preface this by saying, before that, she said, we expect, since you run out of the funeral home, if you're not busy, you will help us with moving things. I don't want to move dead bodies on my off time. I'm sorry. That's not my job. That's the funeral director or whoever.
Yeah.
I am not about that life. No. I'm sorry.
That's weird.
Yeah. We asked a few episodes ago if people still did body removals to let us know. We still haven't gotten anybody to email, so I hope y'all are out of that life, man. But if you aren't, email us 107offduty@gmail.com. Come on, let us know.
Oh,
but
God.
The big problem.
Wait, would these be already embalmed and all that? Like, they're not messy, right? Not necessarily, though. I guess it could be before that process,
right?
But the really gross ones, they're not going to have open caskets anyway.
Well, yeah, true, but I mean,
I wonder how that works. If you're so nasty that you're going to have a closed casket, do they bother prettying you up?
They're at that point. They're actually wanting us to move the body bag from the cooler to the table and do all that stuff. Yeah. Not about that life, bro. No. So
yeah, that doesn't sound great. Everything else about it sounds fantastic, though. So I mean, shoot, if that's the only gripe, how bad is it, really? You know.
Well, let me continue on with my little story here.
Okay.
So, I asked her what the ratio, actual 911 calls to transfers were, and she told me, well, we don't understand why medics don't want to do all the transfers. We did 400 between the first of the year and now, which was July.
Oh, they do a lot of transfers then.
And they said, we don't get why they, like, if your shift changes at 7 and you don't want to do a transfer at 6 o'clock in the morning, why? You better have somebody here to take that transfer.
Right.
I'm like, okay, so what you're telling me is you do 400 transfers in around 6 months, and you wonder why the medics don't want to take the transfers?
That's crazy.
And she told me that she is taking transfers out of pretty much every surrounding area that the local EMS said, no, this is not something that needs to be taken right now. It can wait till morning. So basically, they're the backup for the hospital.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay. Weird.
Because I can honestly tell you, I have worked enough in this field that I have fallen asleep behind the wheel of an ambulance before. And I have woken up
with the things
on the way home from work before.
Oh, yeah.
So, you want to keep, like, good medics in the field.
You want to keep them sharp.
Then make sure you don't overwork them.
Yeah, man.
Like, that's my only
hell yeah. And not to mention, like, I don't want the guy that's responsible with keeping me alive until I get to the hospital, like, dozing. I want him awake. I want him up and sharp. And,
even when I was
alert.
when I was doing 24 calls in 24 hours, by, like, the end of it, I couldn't tell you what I gave to a full arrest or anything like that. It's just like, insert IV,
like
put a
zombie.
funnel on, and dump the drug box in and see whatever we'll catch.
Yeah.
And or even worse than that, like the small BS calls and stuff, because we talked about those
you got,
too.
Like, zero tolerance for that shit.
Like,
around that time.
You roll up there and they're walking out on their cell phone like,
they don't even
why
look at you.
am I here?
Yeah.
You just get angry, kind of, and you're like, just get on the cot. You take you take a blood pressure, you take a pulse, you get the respirations, and you're like, just be quiet.
Right. Hell yeah, man. And like, imagine if that was a newer person that didn't have the experience to like push through something like that, and then because they're so tired or just mentally exhausted, they make like some egregious mistake. And nobody's gonna feel like bad for them. They're gonna jump their ass for that.
That's exactly why we talk about burnout, because burnout is a huge thing, and we talked about this first or second episode.
Yeah.
You get burnout the first time, and then after that, it makes it that much easier to get burnout again. Mm-hmm. You find your point of burnout, and then
all you can really do is get better at alleviating the burnout.
True.
It's all you can do, because it's gonna happen.
Yeah. I think that's something that most people really don't think about,
which is fucked up, because every job has that problem. It's just not as important.
Right.
Like, even like when you work at a general store and you're doing the same thing every day, you get burnt out. And when you first start, it doesn't matter how menial and shitty your job is, it's not so bad because it's new.
Right.
And then you get burnt out. Like, every job ever that I've ever had, I loved it when I first started it, and I'm like, yeah, I'm good at this. I'm gonna move up into corporate. I'm gonna.
Right.
And then like 6 months in, you're just like, kill me. I fucking hate this. But when you get burnt out and you work at the electronics section of a Walmart, nobody gets hurt.
Yeah, totally.
You just might not give a guy the good customer service that he requires, or whatever. Like. So it's a lot more important and serious whenever it's a medical thing.
Well, and that's the thing too is, if you look at most,
You think doctors get burnout?
Oh, yeah.
I bet a lot.
Oh, yeah.
I know doctors take a lot of vacations and stuff.
And that's the thing too.
I'm sure almost all doctors come in like full of zeal.
As far as the EMS goes, like our benefit days don't really, like vacation time and blah blah blah. They don't really equate to what they should.
Oh yeah.
Because I mean, you work 24 hours, you get 2 days off. But what most people don't look into as far as like company-wise goes, all right, so say you work 24 hours and you're busy all day, and then you do that late transfer, and, then you run 3 more 911 calls, and one of them is right when you're supposed to get off shift, so then you're getting off at like 8:30 instead of 7 o'clock or something like that. Plus you have, 4 reports that you're down because you didn't have the chance to do them at the time. Okay, so you stay over and do your report, the reports you're behind, or you do them at home depending on what system they use.
Right. Are you allowed to do that? Because they're like working off the clock, kind of?
Well, then you legally let the company know that you're doing that, and then they have to pay you.
Gotcha. Now, do they like when you get overtime like that, like in the middle of the week? Like at my job, there are times when like I'll be like working and I'm supposed to get off at 4:30, but then like something happens at 4:20, and before you know it, it's 4:50, 5 o'clock, and I'm just now getting out of there. Like if that's Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, I cut that time, go home early. Like, does that happen at all in EMS at all?
Definitely not. No.
So you get overtime every time you're over.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, that's...
I mean, because...
I don't know if I want to say that sucks, because it's like you get that overtime
You can't get off of your shift earlier than what, you're supposed to get off.
Yeah, there's just no overlap.
Right.
There's no overlap at all. But that sucks.
The worst part is, those days whenever you go over and you're busy and all that stuff, you come home for your first day off and you're just spent.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you just sleep.
So
a lot, I'm sure.
You try to get as much little things done as you can, and then you go to bed. And that's it. And you wake up like 6, 7 o'clock at night. I'm like, well, I can't go to the bank now. I can't do this now. And I really don't want to go to the store because I don't want to deal with people.
Right.
So, that sucks. And then
you ever come back from like a vacation feeling just as crappy as you went to it? Like
that's
all a thing that
the
happens.
time.
That sucks. Especially if it's like a little short vacation, like you get like a 4-day, 5-day thing. You come back and you're like, you feel like just as stressed out as you were when you left.
And that's the thing that I don't think a lot of places realize is, you get, okay, so if I take 1 day off, that means I have a 5-day off period.
Yeah.
But you take that 5-day period and, you go enjoy, but if you're not happy where you're working, then you are just as stressed as you were when you came back.
Yeah, you ever feel like you have to like pay for it because you took an extra day and then you got to work your dick off the day you come back.
Yeah, totally.
And then you like stress about that the whole time, like waiting for how much it's gonna suck. Like I can relate to that sometimes because we work on schedules. Like so, every day I'm there, somebody could be going online right now and booking a dog with me.
Right.
So like every once in a while, I'll have like 3 days off and I'll be like, yeah. It's gonna be so exciting, and then I'll get to thinking about it. Like, dude, like I don't know. I have no idea when I'm coming back to. Like a Monday when I come back, it could be like 7 huge dogs or 1 really mean dog or something. You just never know. And I'm like, it always does seem like you end up paying for it when you get something good. Like, like the last day before your vacation is always the roughest day of your life.
Well, see, my big problem, like when I was off for these past, few weeks before I got my new job, I don't do well off.
Nah, well, you do if you have stuff to do.
Because I just sit around and think and do, like small little things, and I'm not one of those guys that likes like. I would not be a good Frank from Shameless.
Yeah.
Just
you're gonna suck. You're gonna have a hard time when you like eventually get to that age and you like retire. You're gonna have a real hard time like coping with that new life.
Well, that's when I'll just go like drag race full time.
Yeah,
just work on my.
Well, you got to do what my grandpa did, man. Like he retired and immediately picked up like 3 hobbies that he enjoyed.
Right.
Like he never did any of those things before because he worked for the highway department for the state for his whole life. Like just like your dad, kind of like 18 to 65 or 70 or whatever. And then, like, when he retired, he was like, I'm just going to relax. I'm not going to do anything. It's going to be great. He did that for a month and nearly went insane.
I was going to say a week, man. Because, like, a week off for me is like...
I think it was like that month he was just doing all the little projects around the house that he'd been putting off for years.
Right.
And then once those were all done, he was like, what do I do with my life? Like, I can't just... And he wasn't happy just sitting there watching Price is Right at home. Like, he couldn't do it. Like, he was just like, I'm going to go
It's like
insane.
being a sick kid at home.
I'm not going back to work because he's like, F that, I'm too old for that. I'm just going to get a bunch of things that I'm really into and do them a lot. You know, that's what he did.
Hey, strangely enough, have you seen Returning the Favor on Facebook? Mike Rowe, the guy from Dirty Jobs.
No, yeah, I have seen that. It is really good.
I love that.
Yeah,
like, that is
never have
so
enjoyed
good.
those Facebook shows that they're trying to get. Like, I don't think they're working, but that one is good.
Well,
it's Mike Rowe. He's the man.
But Mike,
I love
Mike
Rowe.
He's literally going to people who, get
I saw
little
the one
hobbies
where he
or
found
whatever.
the lady that their dress shop. They had a dress shop that was the only one in the county or something like that. And all these women had like their wedding dresses and prom dresses,
and she took
things
them
like that.
Took them back to her house,
and they closed down, and she just did them herself, free of charge. Like, what an awesome lady! And then like he goes and talks to her, and she's all super humble about it. She was just like, "Oh, it was not a big deal."
Well, there was one kid. Donovan, I think. Donovan something. Anyway.
Was he the guy that had the shop?
No, he was...
That guy was cool, too.
He was homeless. He was like 14. Homeless. Him and his mom were homeless. And then they finally got off their feet. And he started making... She was homeschooling him. They got back on their feet, and
probably not with good curriculum either. Like, just barely homeschooling him. If she was homeless, I'm
but
sure.
She taught him how to make soaps from bare bone stuff.
Yeah.
And so he was making soap as a quote unquote class project for his homeschooling. But then since he was homeless, he made, I think, like 18,000 bars, like small bars of soap, and would just take them to the homeless shelter, give them out, and all that stuff.
He wasn't selling them. I mean, he could have sold them. All you have to do is call it artisan soap, and all of a sudden it's worth $30.
He had an Etsy shop that he sold some, but then he would go donate.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
And then
I mean, you got a business model there. Might as well make some money and feed your family.
So the show actually took and built him his storefront, and got all that going
got
for
him
him.
A little shop, basically.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, they're so cool.
Yeah,
I do get the feeling like I always feel like the douche whenever I say stuff like this, but I do get the feeling that Mike Rowe is actually like a really cool guy.
Oh, I'm sure he is.
He comes off as a really cool. I mean, for all I know, he could torture children in his basement, but I mean, as far as I can tell, he's a pretty awesome dude.
But he's been working with his hands for years, so he knows what hard work is. So I think that's pretty cool.
I think he got his start in like singing or something, or was it?
He actually used to do a Travel Channel show,
before Dirty Jobs.
Before Dirty Jobs, because
that's where he got like.
Yeah,
that's where it blew up.
He actually went back to one place during the show that he's doing now, that he was at in like 1980 or 1988, and he showed. He was like, "Well, I'm not doing a travel show. I'm doing a giving it back show." So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, he's a cool dude, man. I mean, he's always been like that, though. Like, he was always... That's the whole point of, like, the Dirty Jobs show, was to, like, shed some light on these people doing this stuff that nobody ever thinks about.
Right.
Like, before you see that, you're like, oh, I just thought that when I flushed my toilet, the poop just disappeared. There's actually a guy that has to fish that crap you're flushing down the toilet out, bro. So maybe don't flush things down the toilet. Help him out.
So I'm kind of bringing this back around. My old partner and me, the ex-Marine that I used to work with, what we would do in the wintertime, and okay, so all my EMS brethren out there, if you've done something like this, please get on 107offduty@gmail.com and send us an email.
Even.
Social media is fine. We're gonna do a twat Even though I don't want to do a twat.
And an Instagram.
Grm.
Instagerms.
Yeah, Instagerms. So, hopefully to be 107 off-duty at Twitter or whatever the
God, it
hell
better
they
be
do.
available. That's a pain when it's not.
Yeah. So, all I can think is me and him used to, in the wintertime, we would get hospital blankets. Like, we would take extra hospital blankets because they're readily available.
You just got them in the truck?
They're cheap. Yeah, just put them in the truck, whatever. And then we'd, go around to where we knew that the actual homeless people would sleep at night.
Right.
And then I'd get out.
Shop fronts that go inward a little bit,
right,
and things like that, underneath trussels.
So I'd get out with, a handful of blankets, and he'd, stay back and make sure that nobody's going to try to shank my ass.
Right. Yeah.
And so I'd go up, and I'd, shake him a little bit and be like, hey, do you need another blanket? What do you need?
Right.
We also used to go back, and we'd go get, cheap canned food or something that you could...
sure.
Yeah. So it'd be like,
stuff
all right,
that doesn't go bad if you don't refrigerate it.
Right.
Obviously, they don't have refrigerators.
So, do you want another blanket? Yeah. Do you need some food? Whatever, and we'd give them out, hand out those things. Because
did you ever see somebody that needed medical care and then hooked I don't know if you can you just do that? Say you're just driving along and then you look to your left at a stoplight and a guy has a heart attack. Can you just care for him, or do you have to wait until... How does that work?
There's a lot of liability there, because if you just give care to somebody and take them to the hospital, I mean, there's duty to act, but then there's that also possibility.
That's a whole weird can of worms.
If they don't have the money to pay for it, then maybe they don't want you to do that, so it's hard. It's hard to weigh that,
if they're not
too.
in a position where they can talk to you. Hey man, do you want me to take you to the hospital? What if you were just I don't know, on a plane and somebody something minor you could probably deal with.
Duty
right?
to act.
Yeah.
So
especially if it's something I'm choking on my food. You're hey, I can handle this.
Right.
Have you ever had to do that thing, an emergency trach?
That's on my bucket list. I want to do one so bad.
Why? That sounds horrible.
No,
sounds like
it's
a
great.
chilling tale.
It's wonderful.
Oh God!
I never wanted to deliver kids, but I've done 3 so far. So, my bucket list is doing the trach. The other bucket list item I had was needle decompression for chest. So, and I've done one. So I'm like, that's checked off. I'm cool with that.
What about the thing they do in the movies where they give them an injection into their heart that gets their heart going again?
That's not anything
that's
anymore.
Hollywood?
Yeah.
Oh, it's old? They used to do that?
Yeah, 80s, 90s, that was
Pulp
something.
Fiction.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking of Pulp Fiction.
Yeah. They used to think that giving epinephrine right into the heart was...
See, I always thought it was adrenaline, but it is epinephrine in that movie. They even say. Mm-hmm. So what's the difference? Because adrenaline is would do that too, right?
Things. Epinephrine is actually created by the body, and that creates contractility in the heart. Okay. Adrenaline is more of an atropine that makes the heart go faster.
But it's created by the body too, right?
Yes.
It's a naturally occurring thing.
Yes. They're both things that we give regularly, but we don't do it in straight to the heart, blah blah blah.
Yeah. That's Hollywood probably more.
Put an IV in and give epi or...
Wow. Do people really freak out when the adrenaline hits them? Are they Wah! Do you really kind of Hulk out in the movies and stuff, or is that fake?
No,
it's a shame.
If you're giving that stuff, mostly they're dead. So you don't have to worry about that.
So that's Hollywood, where they wake up and they're Hooba stank.
Technically, Narcan would have been better in that sense because she used a drug that could be Narcaned.
Narcan. I don't even know what Narcan is.
Narcan is for any drug that's an opiate. It reverses.
Which is what she did was she snorted heroin, right?
Yeah, and heroin's an opiate. You have 2 options. You can either give it up the nasal cavity, just
Which is how she got herself into that problem.
Snort someone, or shoot some in both nostrils, or you can do it IV, and IV works a lot quicker.
Yeah, it seems like
they will come up puking and mad.
Oh, I bet. Because they, like, rage a bit?
Well, you basically took away their high. So,
yeah.
It reverses any opiate.
Like instant hangover. Mm. So how come they don't... Because I know, like, with heroin addicts and stuff, like, I was reading a whole thing about, like, what it's like to come off of heroin, like, in real life. And they were saying, like, you know that feeling whenever you have, like, pins and needles in your foot when it's been asleep and it's coming back awake? Is like, imagine that times 100 head to toe. Like, that sounds terrible. Like, and they were like, I was just thinking to myself, like, why not just give them that? Because it probably would just come back, right? Like the what do you call that? Withdrawal symptoms. They would probably just come back, right?
Right.
That sucks. Like, I was reading a thing about that. They were talking about people who take that, like, sleeping pill, like Ambien, maybe.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And it's essentially, it has the same exact effects as heroin, which is terrifying. Like, thousands of people just take it, you know.
Well, like ADD drugs, they are amphetamines.
Yeah. It's really messed
up.
But
the weird thing is,
weird thought, isn't it?
as far as, you know, people who take it recreationally, they get awake and they're just, you know, wired and whatnot.
Amphetamines,
people
not
who
opiates.
need the ADD drugs, what actually happens
it levels them out.
Yeah, it actually, like, makes them focused.
Mm-hmm.
So
I took Ritalin when I was a kid, but I was kind of misdiagnosed because there's two kinds of ADD. It's where you have the hyper ADHD and then ADD regular, where you're not really hyper, you just can't focus.
Right.
And I had that, and back in the 90s, they just gave everybody Ritalin. They literally threw Ritalin at you just because they said you were hyper.
Right.
Like, they didn't even, like, really check. They were just like, yeah, throw Ritalin at him. Take 2 of these and you'll get better grades and your mom won't hate you. So, I took it for like 5 years and my dad was always against it. So whenever I finally got off of it, I was like, I don't think I want to do this. Because I never took it in the summer. I only took it during school, I think. And he was like, do you really want to take this? Because I can tell that you don't like it. And I was like, I hate it. Like, it makes me feel like a freaking actual zombie. Like, I would just go through school like, and you know me, that's not me at all.
Right.
Like, I've never been that guy. Like, I always felt like I just woke up all day long. Sucked. But I mean, I was better at school, so I didn't complain. But when I finally got off the stuff, I did some research into it and looked into it a little bit, and Ritalin works great for the hyper ones, but it doesn't do a damn thing. Or it shouldn't be given to, because I guess it did work. It just should not be given to kids with the regular.
Well, Adderall's the best.
That came on after. I'm too old to remember Adderall.
Yeah.
Adderall works for both, I think, right?
Right. And you can focus and all that stuff. Because I knew a lot of...
They give adults Adderall now.
I knew a lot of people that were working with me, and... You know, if they were off Adderall, they were just bouncing off the goddamn walls.
Yeah.
But whenever they were on Adderall, it was, okay, yes.
Yeah, and they could turn it on. If they wanted to be fun, they could still do that.
Right.
Like, it gives you the choice, as opposed to being, you're insane and you can't help it.
Right.
Which sucks. Nobody wants that. I don't know, man. For me, when I stopped taking the medicine, I was kind of burned. Like, because the Ritalin, like, was such a bad experience. I never wanted to take anything again.
Right.
I was like, I still don't like taking medicine to this day because of it. And I was like, I'm just going to learn how to make myself able to do it.
Well, let's be honest. Like, medications do help if they're used and diagnosed in the right way.
And you still, from almost all medications, have to do something yourself. Like, you can take all the heart medicine you want when you have a heart attack, but if you don't change your diet, you're still going to die. Like, it's the same way. Like, if you just take the pill, you know, and you don't change your life around or find ways to focus, and that's what I did. I found ways to focus. So I was that kid in school that would ask a million questions.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I was raising my hand every 5 seconds. And everybody hated it because it would make the school, like, the classes, like... Actually, the students loved it. Teachers hated it, I should say.
Yeah.
Because they couldn't get through anything. Because I'd be like, oh, what's about that? Like, and that would just keep me enough interested to where I could remember it and focus.
Oh, yeah.
Teachers hated it because I was constantly, like, challenging them. Like, oh, yeah? So, like, how come he did that? I don't know. I just read this from a book. Like... I did have a couple of teachers, though, man. They could answer that stuff. I love those guys.
So
you
were talking about your teachers that hated you.
Yeah. It's basically the general idea is that, like, rather than going on another medicine, I just basically taught myself how to deal with my particular kind of crazy. And, like, I was like, okay, well, I'm just going to lean into it and learn how to just function like this. And it's worked pretty well for me.
Yeah.
I never took notes, though. Ever. Never took notes. Because if I take notes, all I'm thinking about is what I'm writing, and it doesn't sink in. I don't remember any of it.
Right.
So I just have to sit there and listen and then ask questions. A bunch. And it works.
Right.
Teachers fucking hated that I didn't take notes, though. Oh, they hated it.
I'm pretty sure I need Adderall.
Yeah, probably.
Really, honestly.
Probably.
I mean,
Am I really loud, or does that just look like that?
It just looks like that. No, because, like, for the most part, whenever I'm at work, like, I focus when I'm dealing with a person, but then whenever I'm not dealing with a person, my mind...
little off times. And
yeah,
like
just
in between
my mind
times.
bounces around everything.
Yeah.
Like, I'm like, okay, report, Facebook, YouTube.
Right. And then you're easily distracted.
Ooh, what's outside the window?
Right.
Yeah. It's so bad.
Do you find that mostly at work, or is it really you just notice it more at work because it's actually a problem? Because it's not really a problem at home.
Right. So
you are that way at home too, though, I'm sure.
Well, that's the thing is, like, I have the ability to do multiple things at one time when I'm at home.
You almost kind of have to do multiple things at once.
Right.
Yeah.
So, like, I can work on... Well, let's take the podcast, for instance. I can edit the podcast. I'm focusing on one thing. It needs done, so I'm going to do it.
Mm-hmm. But you kind of also are doing 3 other things at
right.
once. Yeah.
Then, on the other side of that, too, I'm, like, checking to see what kind of hits we're getting, where they're coming from, just to see who actually likes us.
And if it wasn't something you have to listen to, you'd probably be listening to music and or...
Right.
A lot of times I'll listen to YouTube videos, which is weird.
Well, we had
I don't even watch the video. I'm just listening to them talk.
We had this conversation earlier, like, we found out how you and I met because I was literally listening to Lamb of God and playing Half-Life at the same time. So, even when I was in college, and I probably would have done better in college if I was medicated. Like,
yeah, probably.
Honestly.
We might have actually, like, survived in there a little longer than we did.
Right. Yeah.
Well, also, we probably would have survived in there a little longer if we hadn't gone to a seminary Christian college.
Right.
If we went to a secular college, we would have been fine.
But I think, honestly, like, cutting out that creative thought process is probably not good for most people. I mean, it's good if you're at, like, working and you can't do anything but.
Oh, yeah. And there's definitely jobs out there that, like, being like that is a plus.
Right.
For sure. And there's more and more of them, too. Like, I read an article that was saying that there's this psychologist doing a study, and he's basically, his theory is that ADD and other things like it that kind of come off the same way are a natural, like, mental evolution.
Right.
That, like, in the world that we live in, where there's a constant stream of just information coming from all directions, a person who has ADD is actually better equipped to deal with that than a person who doesn't. So, like, as the world gets more and more complicated, like, people with ADD are going to come out on top until... eventually everybody's got it.
Honestly, I think that goes back to what we talked about last episode as far as how our parents versus us deal with career things. Because if you, back in the day, you know, you wanted to just focus on one thing.
And be damn good at that one thing.
Yeah, you learned your craft, and that was what you did.
I don't know anybody that's our age that has one thing they do.
Right. But nowadays, what you really need to do is make sure that you stay on top of everything that is involved with your career, so that way you can move up or you can be the best at what you're doing and all that stuff. So, yeah, like, our brains are beating the fuck out of us, but it actually works out well for certain careers.
Yeah.
You know?
I'm a firm believer in that, like, most like, problems can be a positive. So I was like, I always hated whenever they would say like attention deficit disorder.
Right.
I was like, man, I don't know. It doesn't feel like a disorder. It just seems like a minor problem.
And they even got rid of Asperger's too.
Mm-hmm.
Like Asperger's is no longer a disorder.
They don't even call it Asperger's anymore.
Mild form of autism.
Yeah, I think I don't know if this is the main term, but I always liked high functioning autism. Means you're autistic, but you can function perfectly well. It's just you're a little bit of a.
I'll be real honest with you.
dude.
Like, this is probably something I haven't told before, but I have a fucking soft spot in my heart for anybody that is, mentally disabled. Mm-hmm. Like, I will treat them like with kid gloves.
Oh, for sure.
All the time.
Oh, for sure. And they deserve it because honestly, broad strokes, mind you, but generally those people are like honest and they're sincere and they're very real.
Right.
I mean, even if sometimes they're probably a little difficult to work with.
Well, and see, the thing is,
I'm sure that's the
as
case.
long as you talk to them as a person, they'll most likely be a genuinely good person to talk to.
Probably try not to freak them out.
Right.
As long as because you freak them out, then that's bad, I'm sure.
Right. But then again, whenever you have somebody that you can talk to, the caseworkers or whoever deals with them normally, especially if they're living in a group home or something like that, where you're like, okay, well, do they normally do this? Is this not normal for them? Blah, blah, blah. You can tell because they make it more evident whenever they're sick than most people do.
Oh, that makes sense, I guess. They don't think to like hide it like we do.
Right.
They don't have that air of like I need to like look like I got my stuff together, even though I don't.
If you find out somebody has is normally very active, very verbal, very this, that, and the other, and then all of a sudden they just clam up. There's something going on.
Right.
And is it medical or is it mental? You don't know. So you have to rule out the medical before you can go to the mental part.
Because that's what you can do something for.
Right, exactly.
Do you get, on the other side of that, do you get a lot of people, like when you go out on a call, do you ever get that where like a guy's just like, I'm fine, and you can tell he's not? Like,
yeah.
People like throwing off your numbers, basically. Like, I'm trying to gauge what I can do for you, man. It's really in your best interest to tell me exactly what's going on.
That's when I give him the bro talk. I'm like, hey,
look, I'm not going to judge you for feeling some pain. It's fine.
Right.
Yeah.
If you got a problem, let me know so I can help you. Or get the fuck out of my ambulance.
Right. Because, I mean, I can understand that. Like, especially if it was something that was like a little embarrassing. Oh, do you get a lot of that? That just popped into my head. I keep thinking about it because it's like, I don't know why, but it really struck my brain really nicely, that interview with Kevin Smith after he had his heart attack. And he's talking about how, like, he's a big guy.
Right.
Or was. He's lost a lot of weight. But, like, he's like, I've lived my entire life hiding my tits from people. He's like, I've been married to my wife for 30 years and she's never seen my tits. So he's like, whenever the EMT like pulled up his shirt to put the what are they called?
Patches.
The
EKG.
Patches, the EKG on, he like pulled it down and was like, no, bro, what are you doing? Like, there's people around. And like, he freaked out and he had to like get over that shit because they were going to go into his groin and put a stent in. It's like they were going to have to shave him and everything.
See, that's the thing that gets people is, there's times when I would do an EKG and you can tell, okay, they've got family around, this, that, and the other. So I normally make like the fire department do like a little human shield around them while I'm doing it, so that way they're blocking.
What about women? When you have to like
same thing.
Stuff like that, is it like you have to treat it a little? You ever get ladies? They're just like, stop it, no! Like I have to save you. What do you want me to do? Go find somebody?
It's mostly like the dementia people that do that.
Oh. Or you ever get like a little quiet mousy girl that's just like super shy and just can't deal with that?
No, because honestly, this is my spiel every time is, okay, this is what's going to happen is I have to expose you. I'm sorry.
Yeah. It's not like I'm doing it because I want to.
Right. If you're wearing a bra, I'm going to take it off, and I've got to put these patches on certain places
right.
on
they
your
don't
body.
Work.
I'm going to probably have to lift up one side of your breast and put patches under these.
So you just tell them what's going to happen so it doesn't surprise them.
Exactly.
Because I think that's what happened. Because there was a time like last year when my wife Caitlin went to the ER for like, she was like lightheaded and it wasn't going away. and she was starting to kind of freak out, and she went to the ER, and this guy came in, and he didn't tell her much. I mean, he had good bedside manner. He wasn't a jerk.
Right.
But he's an ER doctor. So he was, or a nurse. I don't even know if he was a doctor. He just had to come in, come out, and get his done. You know, like, they're all in a hurry.
Yeah.
And he didn't tell her much, and he didn't really, like, talk her up to it. He was just trying to, like, Band-Aid it, kind of, like, get it over with. And, like, she, like, had tears in her eyes. She was like, I wasn't ready for that. Like, it freaked her out a lot.
that's the thing, too, is normally whenever I deal with people, especially if it involves a 12 lead, you know, and to be honest, to rule out things, they want to do 12 leads. Kind of like with Kevin Smith, like they didn't know what was going on because he wasn't complaining of chest pain.
He thought he was just too high, which I love. That's the best thing.
To rule out things, you know, 12 lead tells you a lot.
Yeah, and that's the one that here, and here, or something like that.
There's 12 leads, so you have one.
Oh, it's like the whole
1, 2
chain of them that they put together,
yeah. and it goes all the way around one side.
It's basically like that thing you plug into newer cars to like.
It's your ECU. Yeah, let's check out your ECU.
Yeah. Essentially, it's like.
But
it gives you all the info.
Normally, whenever I go out to somebody and I'm going to do a 12 lead with them, it's okay. Well, I'm going to expose you. I've got to do this. I've got to make sure your heart's good.
If you've got time to say all that, I'm sure. So there's points where you're like, I don't have time for this.
Normally, I do it as I'm doing it, so that way they're not freaked out.
And you're not wasting time at the same time.
Right. And then I usually tell them, I'm like, okay, well, with what I'm doing now, they're going to do the same thing at the hospital. So don't freak out about that. They're going to do the same thing again to make sure there's no changes. Like,
do they teach you guys that, or do you just kind of acquire that as you do it?
They teach you to do it, but they don't teach you that bedside manner. That's what
I mean. Yeah, like, do they teach you that, like, ability to talk to people and, like, people are going to do this, and you're going to need to help them feel better about it.
Well, that's the thing.
It all makes your job easier to have good bedside manner, I'm sure.
Well, that's the thing that I think is best about, you know, with you and I as we were doing band stuff is because you meet people all the time.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm very antisocial. I have always been antisocial.
That's why we always worked well together, because we are in a lot of ways very similar, but in a lot of really core ways we're exactly the opposite.
Right.
Like, I have never had stage fright in my life.
Right.
I played in front of people that hated us and left feeling fine.
Right.
I don't get nervous. I could public speak. I could give a speech that someone else wrote for me to make me sound stupid and still feel good about it. It doesn't bother me.
Yeah.
Like,
and see, that's the thing is, like, doing the whole, like, on-stage thing and then afterwards dealing with people and talking to people all the time, that made
it... will break you of that shit.
It made it a lot easier because, honestly, all I would do, like... I pull a lot from that because you're really doing public speaking, or you're doing, one-on-one
performing
contacts.
Something that you created in front of people is probably even more scary for most than public speaking.
I have never been scared of public speaking, like, as far as, like, band things do, like playing guitar in front of people or whatever.
I bet it'd be harder if you were by yourself up there, though.
Oh, totally.
Those acoustic guys?
That's why I do a lot of fucking open night shit, or at least used to do a lot of open night, or open mic.
Open mic night. That's what you were wanting to say.
Yeah, exactly.
It was so close that I didn't even realize you said a weird thing, so it almost took me forever to, like, go, oh, he means open mic.
Yeah. From for the last couple of years, since I didn't have John or another person or a few people to do a band, it was just me. I would go do open mic nights and stuff.
I always thought about doing comedy on open mic. That's got to be scary because you don't have music to back you up. It's just you're either going to be funny or they're going to hate you.
Exactly. Exactly.
Like,
and
that's
music will always entertain people.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't care.
Even bad music will keep people from killing you.
Right.
Like, but people act like they want to murder you when you're not funny and you're a comic. Like, I have a lot of respect for those guys.
Right.
Because that's balls.
Yeah.
I remember, like, I did a fair amount of talking on one of them, and it started to meander, and I remember just being like, okay, we're ending this.
Well, that was the time, that little ditty that I wrote up to, like, end things out. was like a good chord progression and whatnot, and you were talking and stuff like that.
And I just I hadn't prepared what to say.
Right.
And I was just because that's how we did our music. We winged it. We winged it for years.
Yeah.
We literally made an entire album's worth of songs just off the seat of our pants. There are times that I would play a song and then change the lyrics entirely by the next time we played it.
Right. But they sounded the same, so it was fun.
Yeah. I would sometimes forget. I never wrote anything down. And sometimes I would just decide I didn't like that anymore. I wanted to change it.
Right.
We were almost a jam band, but not quite.
Right. It was like a metal jam band.
Yeah. Except we didn't change everything every time.
Right.
Because that's what those guys do. Which is also really cool. I love that.
I knew exactly what the fuck to play, but it was hard because it was just me, a drummer, and John.
Yeah, you didn't have any percussion backing you up. Well, string percussion backing you up.
Right. So I had to learn how to play.
And luckily for everyone, I can't play an instrument. If I just learned how to play the damn bass, we would have been solid.
Right.
Which now that I think about it, man, I feel like if I would have just went out and bought a bass, I bet you could have taught me enough bass to limp through it.
Oh, yeah, totally.
Well, I don't know why we never tried. We never even thought of it.
Getting the equipment was so expensive at the time.
We were so poor. That's all it was. Just knock a few strings off your guitar and play it as a bass and drop D.
I already had everything for myself, and then Emmett had everything for himself, and then we bought a few mics just so we could get by.
Yeah, and probably you didn't trust me with any of your guitars, so I couldn't play backup guitars.
And now we have $1,000 or couple $1,000 worth of microphones.
Yeah, as you can hear, I almost said C.
Yeah, it's different, man. There's a lot of stuff from college to now that's different.
Oh, super different. Although some things don't change at all, which I think is great.
But I want to know if you guys out there listening, what changed in your past? What made you come to EMS? What do you like?
Or if you used to do it, what made you stop?
Right, yeah.
Interested in big moments where you can go left or right and you decide to do one or the other.
Right. Go to 107offduty@gmail.com and send us an email and let us know, because I really want to know.
Yeah, and if you don't do the whole email thing, you can Facebook us also.
Yeah. Facebook is facebook.com/10-7offduty. We also have Patreon. If you like us, if you really like us, please go.
If you really like us.
If you even kind of like us, just go to patreon.com/offduty. We've got $1 options that are extra episodes, $5 options that are exclusives plus extra episodes.
Yep. And to be clear, we're not using that money for alcohol. We're not stupidly using it. It's all going towards better equipment, or it's going towards eventually, if we made a ton, hiring some dude to edit for us so we can focus more on making more episodes.
And t-shirts.
Everything you give is going to be
for the love of God.
The show. And t-shirts, which are very expensive, and other merch and things like that. They're not going towards everything you give us is going to make the podcast better, basically.
Right. Yeah. And like I've said before, I really want to expand this whole podcast thing. I want to get more people involved. We had one special guest, A.E. Chandler, Intuition's books. So, I mean, he's a cool guy, man. He's awesome.
He's a super cool guy.
If I can get more people that are interested in coming in and doing interviews or being special guests or whatever,
hell yeah,
I would love that. We're also on, of course.
You pulled a me.
Well, of course, we're on the offduty.podbean.com. You can get a Podbean app. You can also get us...
Which works very well. I use it.
Yeah.
Because I don't get to hear this stuff until it comes out a lot of times. So I love to... I am a huge narcissist, and I love to listen to it.
Well, let's be honest. I spend hours,
you're probably
hours.
sick of listening to it by the time it hits that site.
Yeah. Doing the editing, I have to edit for
that's good though, because
normally
things.
2 to 3 hours, and then I have to bounce it to a certain thing, and then I have to convert it to MP3.
Imagine if that was automatic or something, though. You wouldn't have that input into what we're doing that you do now. Like, you notice little weird things that we do.
Yeah, yeah.
Do you notice if we like are talking about something and then get on another subject and forget to wrap it up, and then you can bring it up the next episode?
Yeah.
I think editing is a big part of this. Like,
right.
You have to, like...
You have to have somebody who is very, very into the dumb things that we say.
Yeah.
Also, also off the Podbean app, we have, it's all on Google Play, iTunes, and Spotify.
Hell yeah.
You can't do any kind of like ratings or anything off Spotify, but please, if you listen to us off of Google Play or iTunes, rate us.
Yeah.
Send some messages, whatever.
No, we'd love feedback.
Yeah.
We'd love that.
Yeah. We really want to know what you think about us, man. It's
hurt us.
It's fun. Right in John's butthole.
We're masochists. Give us the pain. Bring it.
Yeah, let us know, man. Like,
you can't say anything about us that we haven't already thought about ourselves.
we want to know, like, we're still working on t-shirts. We're still doing a little bit of extra content, extra episodes, and we want to know what you guys want. Like, let us know, please.
Especially with the extra stuff.
Yeah.
There's no reason that you shouldn't have an input on things that you're paying to get to listen to.
Right,
so
exactly.
You should definitely let us know what you want, and we'll give it to you, hopefully, if we can.
Yeah. So just let us know, and we're doing a few more here. Probably actually happened last week, so just let us know.
Yeah.
All right. Well, and John's going to be a daddy. So
a daddy?
A daddy.
Oh, God. Oh, God. What if you still called your dad daddy at your age, like right now?
I'd feel real bad.
Hello, daddy. I'm so happy to see you, daddy.
I would also like to say hello to the people that are listening in Sweden and Canada and UK.
We'll learn stuff about your culture, I promise. I mean, we know about UK.
All I know is
IKEA.
Sweden.
IKEA and few things I've picked up from Beauty Pie, which is probably the last source they want me to learn about their culture from. So,
all right. Well,
the Dudesons. That's where is that? That's Finland. Fuck.
Yeah. Well, we love you all you listeners. Thank you. We appreciate it. Do what we ask.
Do what we ask. What's that?
Bye,
Daddy.